Hey guys, it's Jason down at Fanatik Bike Co. doing a bike check for you on the GT Force that I rode up in Retallack for our GT video. We've got this bike built up with a smattering of parts that are available in the bike builder. Suspension wise, I'm running Cane Creek front and rear. I've got the new Helm fork up front. It's a coil fork. I've actually never run a coil fork before, so I was a little skeptical as to how it would feel, worried about it being a little too linear. It blew me away with how well this fork performed and how much it feels like an air fork later in the travel, but still maintains that supple coil feel off the top of the travel. I've got the 45-pound spring in there, and that gave me excellent support all the way through the mid-stroke and into the end of the travel. I'm running about half a turn of preload. I've got my high-speed compression all the way open and low-speed compression somewhere in the middle. Rebound kind of to feel. It's very similar how I would set up the Lyric on my bike. In the back, I'm running the new Creek DBair CS Trunnion. It's the same as the old DBair CS, but this time it is a trunnion mount. CS, of course, stands for climb switch. Cane Creek does something a little different with their climb switches. Aside from just damping down the compression, it also dampens down the rebound. So when you're pedaling uphill, the bike doesn't want to bob, and you actually have an improved traction on the ground going up. Not that we did a whole lot of climbing in Retallack. Pretty much everything we did was shuttle access, which was sweet. So we got to see how the shock performed descending. It handles really well in chunky stuff, and it definitely likes to jump. The frame itself performed really well in both of those areas as well. I really liked jumping on this frame. A few other things to note, we're running Enve M7 bars and stem. We also have Enve M735s for the wheels. Mounted up onto some Schwalbe Magic Marys front and rear, all-time favorite tire. I've got a GX Eagle drivetrain on here, and again, all these parts are loaded up in the bike builder along with the frame, so hop on there, check them out.
So, Jason just told you a little bit about the Force he was riding up at Retallack. I was also on a Force, a little bit closer to a stock build, although I did have some Enve M735 wheels on there, as well as the M7 handlebar and stem. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the sensor that Becca was on while we were up there. We got this set up in a pretty unique way. We're running the MRP Ribbon fork. This is a 27.5 plus or 29-inch fork that's actually offered in a reduced offset model. It's a 46 mil offset. This is the regular one, but for those of you wanting to experiment with reduced offsets, MRP is offering that aftermarket, so you can check that out on your bikes. This is a pretty neat fork. Obviously, it looks pretty different. You can see the reverse arch here. That is a design characteristic that MRP included so as to prevent mud from getting stuck in the lattice work, as it typically does on pretty much every other fork on the market. Obviously, Colorado doesn't see a ton of mud, but they were getting a lot of requests from foreign customers, people in the UK, certainly people out here in Washington that thought this was a good idea, so they rolled with it, and it makes for a very unique fork. Other cool things about this, it runs MRP's ramp control cartridge, which has a similar effect to running spacers in your fork. This is a little different though. It opens and closes a little port in there, so it actually changes how the fork ramps up and is speed sensitive instead of the the volume reducers, which are just a static element that reduces the volume. Changing the diameter of that port allows air to flow into the cartridge more quickly or more slowly, and has some positive performance benefits. This fork, I bumped it to 145 mil travel. It's adjustable very easily in as little as 5 millimeter increments. And since Becca was taking it out to Retallack, where we were going to be shuttling, doing a heli drop up on Texas Peak, I gave her a little more travel than the stock 130 that this bike is typically configured with. Other than that, fairly stock build. We did run the M730s for Becca's bike, as well as the M7 series stem and handlebar. Super bulletproof stuff. The protective rim strip on the M7 series wheels is hugely functional, believe it or not. It actually not only serves to protect your rim from poking holes in your tire, which happens with a lot of the really stiff rims out there these days, it also sort of serves as a bead lock, because the bead of the tire is pressing into a softer surface as opposed to the hard carbon of the rim. So it helps keep your bead of your tire from burping air out. Now I am doing full reviews. I have written a full review on the Force that you can find in our blog, and once I get to spend some time on the sensor, I'll be putting up a review for that as well. This is a 130 mil bike as typically set up, 29er. Really good geometry, fairly long reach numbers, really steep seat tube, fairly slack head angle too, which makes this thing fully capable. You saw the stuff that Becca was riding out in Retallack. This thing is a ripper and probably appropriate for, you know, the vast majority of the trails that any of us are riding on a day-to-day basis. We did set the M730s up with the new Hans Dampf rear. This is the second version of this tire, and I gotta say, I was running it on my Force as well, vastly improved from the first one. They did a new side tread or side knobbies, cornering knobs on this tire that essentially made this tire phenomenal, along with the new compounds that Schwalbe is running. These are a far cry from the Hans Dampfs of 6 years ago. We've got this Force and the sensor frame loaded up into our custom bike builder. As you know, Fanatik does custom builds. That's what we do best. But we're also carrying the whole line of factory builds from GT. They have an extremely affordable, well thought out line of aluminum builds, and then obviously their fancy carbon builds, which run a carbon front triangle. Has a lot of cool features, including these groove tubes, which you might be able to see. Makes for a really clean look and really easy to maintain because the cables are right there. If you have any questions about these bikes, you can always leave us a comment below. Get back to you as soon as we can. You can also give us a phone call at 844-FANATIC, that's 844-326-2845, or shoot us an email, sales@fanaticbike.com. Thanks for watching. Check out our blog post for more. We'll see you next time.